Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's KubeVela's community meeting. I'm Fog, one of the maintainers. So, first, let's just catch up with the latest issues. Is there something issues that you want to brought up or some other questions?
Yeah, so can you guys have anything? Sorry, go ahead.
So I want to discuss one thing regarding versioning proposal. So there was a feature discussion, I think, long back on the channel regarding introducing versioning for the KubeVela definitions. So
I remember that.
we are internally working on that feature, and we have prepared some draft proposal. So maybe we can discuss that in this call, and later I'll also share the proposal as a KEP and others can contribute to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would
of course.
be great. So you have already implemented, or it's more like a draft design?
It's just a draft for the requirements, not implementation, or we don't even have finalized the implementation approach. That's where I think we would need inputs from some of the contributors that what would be the right way to implement this. Um,
Yeah, okay. I think currently I'm working on the QX feature. I've already implemented that, but I haven't pick up the test. So maybe after the QX feature, I can work on the versioning. I know it's a feature request that we promised for a quite long time. So is this your account, or maybe you can just like put the draft design in the issue, and we can discuss a final design before the implementation here.
yeah, so should I add that as a KEP? I see there are some KEP in the repo.
Uh,
Um,
what
there is, I think, KubeVela proposal, enhancement proposal. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, yes, you can. I know that we do have this repo, like I don't remember the name. Is it
It's in the KubeVela repo. There is
KubeVela
that's in
repo.
KubeVela? Okay.
yeah, it's a KubeVela repo. There is a directory called design, I think.
I see. It's in here. The
Right.
I guess. It was,
So
yeah. Oh, I think it's on
is this the right place to add here?
yes, yes. I think yeah. I do remember that we have another repo for specifically proposals, but I don't quite remember it. I can try to find that offline, or maybe this is another places that we put all of the designs. It's more like the design we already implemented, so that we add it here. So, but we have another repository that for like potential proposals, just like typical cloud native open source repository had. But I can maybe send in the Slack channel once I find that place, or maybe you can just create a pull request in here. I think both way works.
Okay.
Okay.
For now, I'll add it here.
Yeah, you can create a pull request here.
Yeah. Also, maybe I can go over what is the proposal, maybe at the end of the meeting. If we have any other topics to discuss, we can go ahead.
Okay, great. Any other issues that we would like to look into?
So there was one Fog from Oana in the Vela UX. There's a PR she requested for the size of the username if it goes beyond the max, so that there's an error out. Yeah, that one, the first one.
First one.
Yeah. We don't use this. We don't use the Vela UX. Not sure. But I think looking at the PR, it looks straightforward. I think if you think there is nothing else, I think this should be a quick fix for them to make use of. The first line was the only thing that I was not very sure about in the strategy part. Is do we just tag it or pin it to version 1.26, or do we have both?
Yeah, actually, I think it's okay to just delete the 1.21 because it's pretty old versions, and right now we should
Yep.
actually catch up the Kubernetes version, maybe up to
Yeah.
1.29. That would be great. Yeah, I'll look into this issue, this pull request,
Yeah.
which seems
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Just looking at the max length and
yeah.
figuring it out. So I think if you can, she's also been one of the active members of the community. So giving them all the power to proceed with KubeVela would help.
Yeah, great.
Awesome.
We might also need to add
Yeah, re-trigger
the code honors. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that later.
Sure.
On the side. So Fog, if there is nothing else, could you speak a little more about QX? I mean, I've looked at it. Not everybody probably understands the power of QX, and what you would be able to do with QX.
Yeah, I'd love to, but I currently cannot showcase a demo, so maybe I'll showcase a demo in I don't know, maybe next community meeting because I do not have time to prepare the demo recently. But I'll show a demo once the feature is is fully tested, so that we can showcase the whole thing before we merge it, and the people can then try the new feature after release.
Yeah, and I was not talking about the demo, but if you give a high level of what it does, what is the purpose of it, that would be awesome.
Yeah, okay. So actually, the QX engine is more like a huge refactory of our the whole definition system. Because in the past, we do leverage the power of Q, but not in a very unified way. So QX is just like a new fully refactored engine for our definition system. So with QX, you can just use Q or any actions like you are calling a function. And you can also use this engine to register your own APIs as an Q action so that you can you just call the API in your definitions, and this new engine will also simplify our the way how we write the definition. So that will be very simple and very straightforward because you are just like calling a function to write all of these definitions. Because right now, I think we do have the power for the definitions writing, but sometimes the syntax or the language seems a kind of messy. So when new contributors come to here, they might not very understand how these definitions works. But with QX, it will be straightforward. So I think it may be easier for our users to write definitions. So that's basically the high level of QX. And this pull request will also just simplify the whole controller application reconcile logic so that make our code just easy to read.
Awesome. And how about Q being immutable in the definition? Does that change with QX?
No, that didn't change.
That doesn't.
It's the thing. It's the that's just how Q works. QX just adds some features, or like a wrapping for Q, but it will not change the Q itself.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. But it's still going to be powerful in the sense that we'd be easily able to extend and create definitions in the application to call our own APIs, look at the responses, do other things, etc. So the definitions, we could potentially orchestrate a lot more things with less code.
Yes, and this also make it possible if you have like some other APIs that build with different languages like Java, you can just import that Java API as an Q action in your definition so that you can just leverage the different APIs built with different languages.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fogg, for that, and we look forward to the demo once we have this massive PR merged in.
Yeah, no, and also thank you for like organizing and maintaining the community. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Daniel as well.
Yeah.
Just one question on QX, if I may. So you mentioned we can call API. Is it during render time, or we are allowing users to call APIs when the application reconciles? So okay, I don't know if that makes sense. It's during reconcile, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Cool.
So under the hood is just the application controller. When it's reconciles applications, it will it will try to understand how your workflow or your application want to call and just run the whole QX engine. That's how it works.
Okay, got it.
Do I
Awesome.
have some other questions or like issues that want to discuss?
Guy team, I mean, have you been able to completely solve the unit test failing issues? Or do you guys have?
Yeah, I think I did. And I've merged this. Oh, it's not this one.
Yeah, like there is a cleanup problem which intermittently fails, but I think that is fixed. Yeah, in that PR, the first one.
The first one? Oh, this one. Yeah, I also saw this one.
Awesome.
And
So now this CI is clear, then people making pull requests, it'll be easy for them.
yeah, actually, what I saw a lot of E2E tests cannot pass is because the Docker registry are having this rate limit problem.
Yes.
So yeah, I just
We've had that issue
also.
for us in our commercial product as well. So
Yeah.
how do we solve this? It does CNCF get any credits with the
No,
Docker registry?
I just changed it to GHCR.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
That doesn't have rate limits, right?
GHCR also has some rate limits, but I believe it's just higher than Docker registry.
Got it.
Mm.
Okay.
So I see you have updated the version to 122.5, right? In this that PR is merged. So I was thinking it also warrants updating few other libraries since we updated the version. So we were testing out if we can update libraries like Q and few other libraries in the Go mode file, and we are testing it out. If that works, we'll raise a PR to update that also.
Oh, great. Are you talking about the Q I don't know, Q version upgrading?
The Q version, yeah, the first PR you see, that's
Uh-huh. Oh, great. I
yeah.
saw this. I love this, but I don't know if it's better to create in PKG and also workflow because in that two repos we also had Q versions, but I think it's I think it's okay if all of these tests are passing. We just want to make sure that the upgradation of Q does not like break the whole KubeVela systems, but because once it's happened, there are some breaking changes like between Q before 0.4 and after 0.4, so that we fix a lot of Q issues. But seems like the higher versions don't have those much break changes.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I hope there are unit tests that are covering a lot of things. Yeah, we'll try to run all the tests, make them pass. And also the other point you mentioned about workflow repo, we'll also work on that. I think there also we need to update the Go version to the latest, I think.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for the contribution.
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, the team in India is energized to do more work. So hearing from you and other maintainers would be awesome.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, Anup is adding a lot of horsepower though.
You guys are doing the work, so
I think if nothing else, I can just quickly go over the proposal for versioning requirement.
you okay with that, Fog?
Yeah,
Just-
yeah, sure. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay,
so go ahead.
can I share the screen?
Okay. You can share right now.
Yeah, just sharing my screen. Yeah, are you able to view the PDF?
Yes.
All right. So I'll just quickly go high level. I think everyone here probably knows what this is about. So, so this is based on the discussion we had a while back in the channel, and also there is an issue we have a long discussion thread there. So this is more of a culmination of that thread, and we have come up with a proposal based on what all was proposed in the comments. So the current versioning issue has some shortcomings, which many community members are facing currently. So we are proposing a new versioning scheme, which alleviates a lot of those problems. So the proposal is that we will. Okay, before I go to the proposal, let me just quickly just read out the goals. So support the definition versioning using Semver. So there was a discussion between Semver versus the CRD, the Kubernetes way of versioning, for example, V1, Alpha 1, and so on. But we decided on Semver. Also, there was a conclusion in the thread that everyone was on board with the Semver. And there are some advantages with that. We can differentiate major minor patch version, and we can clearly say our intentions that what this version upgrade means in terms of compatibility and so on. So that is one of the goals. The other goal is an application developer should be able to pin a specific version that they want to consume. For example, they can just specify at the rate whatever somewhere they want to use. And the non-goal, we don't want a very complicated versioning scheme like we have for typical package managers in language like Go and NPM package manager and so on. We want to keep it simple. And the second goal is this again addition to the first point, like we don't want to support something like this. It should be an exact version match. That's what we are proposing. Yeah, so going back to the exact proposal, we are introducing this version field in the spec. This is going to be a version colon samvar of this definition, exact definition. So there was another alternative which we can specify version in the annotations, but I think this is better because there could be multiple representations of definition which only contains just what is in the spec and not this part. This is more of a Kubernetes way of representing a resource. So it would be good to have it in spec. And that's why we are going ahead with this way of specifying version. And the version must be a valid semantic version, the somewhere spec of this form. And the application should be able to choose which version they want to use. With additional caveat that application can specify partial version, for example, 1.0. In that case, KubeVela will always reconcile the latest patch version 2, 3. It will auto upgrade. And similarly, you can only specify major version. In that case, it will auto upgrade all the minor and patch versions. And if you don't specify anything, it will always upgrade to the latest version, which is the current behavior. And we are proposing that any version updates within a major version should be backward compatible. This is more of a suggestion. We don't have any way to enforce this in KubeVela controller, but just a standard that we should follow in general. And then we'll have to handle the existing definitions in the cluster, which doesn't have version field. So during implementation, we'll have to think about continuing to support them as it is with current behavior. That is, it will auto upgrade every time a new version is released of that without spec version spec. So the current behavior will continue to work, and at some point we will stop supporting the legacy way of versioning, and we'll mandate the field that version be specified in the spec. This is just BDD acceptance criteria they come up with. So these are all the test case we'll implement for the feature. It's not complete, it's still work in progress. And design details, this is where we don't have much details. I think we will need more inputs on this. So one proposal was to have use this definition revisions resource, but there are also some issues with this. For example, definition revisions are not consistent across clusters. Every cluster will have their own list of definition revisions. So this is tricky to use. There are other proposals. I think one by Daniel that we can use the main resource like component definition with a suffix of version name. So we can have multiple component definition for the same component with a suffix version name. And there was one more suggestion internally by Kanchan. She basically mentioned if we can specify multiple versions in the same spec, as a list of versions. So these are various approaches. I think we'll need to finalize one. I would like some inputs from maintainers on what would be the right approach. Any questions?
I have a question. So, I remember that we do have some versioning before but it's just not the Samver version. So my question is, how do we handle the old versions and like the new versions? For example, if the old versions is already like in ver3 and the users had specified like 1.0 in the spec dot version, how do we handle that?
Yeah, so the existing ones will continue to work as it is. So as long as we don't create a component definition with a Samver, it will continue to follow the old version. And as soon as you roll out a new definition which has this field, the old ones will not work. It will always take into account the definitions with the version. So the application will always use always use the one which is specifying the version.
So it's not a requirement that the version that user specified must like bigger than the previous legacy versions. There's no requirements of that.
No, they are going to be totally orthogonal versioning. The handling of both of them is going to be orthogonal. The legacy one will continue to work as it is. And as soon as we roll out a new component with a version field, they are sort of enrolled into the new versioning scheme, which KubeVela controller should handle in different way.
Yeah, I think the problem of no requirement for that is just like if the users does not specify the version in their component, by default, the controller will try to find the latest version of definitions, and in that way, it may find the legacy versions, but not the newly version that user just created.
Yeah, that will have to handle in when we implement this new versioning, right? Meaning you're saying if the application definition does not specify any version, and there is a version definition that exists with somewhere, right? Is that what you are saying?
No, I think what she's saying is that if you have the old version components, every time you create a new component update, it is going to go from V1 to V2 to V3, whereas your Semver might go from 1.01 or 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3. So if the old legacy way is applied, and if you have a mix of both, well, you won't have a mix of both. You would have only one, and one scheme running at a time, correct?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
either
correct.
the version scheme or the old version scheme.
Yeah, so as I said, right, as soon as we create a new definition with a version with some specific Semver, we will no longer create an internal versioning with the legacy scheme. We will stop creating the legacy versioning, and the KubeVela controller should be modified such that it always looks for the one with the version Semver. It picks the one with the latest Semver.
Yeah, I understand once the version is specified, controller will stop creating the legacy one. But for like our users in their old clusters, there may already have some legacy versions. But I think in that way, if the users want to use the like the version, they must specify explicitly specify the versions in their components. Otherwise, the controller will just follow the old way to try to use the latest in the legacy ones. Is that correct?
Yeah, only if the one with Semver doesn't exist. So if the if there is any component with semver exists, then the controller should always pick up the one with semver.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So they can always opt in. Either they use the semver or they use the old scheme.
Yeah, if they don't roll out any component with versions field specified, then it will continue to be the old scheme.
I think that should
So
sort of support. So the other question I'm thinking is that if I am on the legacy, I already have a component which is at, let's say, at version 4 right now. And I want to move to the new version scheme in Semver. Should I start from 4.1 onwards, or is it like, no, I would ignore,
no,
I use version, I'll ignore everything that was the old legacy version, and I'll start from version 1. How would that transition?
yeah, you can ignore the legacy version. You can start from your semver from scratch.
Got it.
Shreyas, I have another thought. The API version, right? Sorry, for the component definitions, the CRDs themselves have an API version, right? So the Semver version within the spec, will that be sort of nested within each API version? So, meaning that V1 Beta 1 will have a series of Semver within the spec, and when let's say V1 is or V1 Beta 2 is released for the component definition itself, that will like how will that be nested? Meaning, because we can have multiple versions of the component definition itself, right, in terms of the CRD, and we can roll them out, both of them. So how will that be
Yeah,
handled?
but that's the CRD version, right? It's not the component definition version.
No, yeah, agreed. So like, are we thinking that the spec version will be sort of tied to the API version as well, or that will be independent of the API version altogether?
No, that has nothing to do with CRD API
Yeah.
version.
It would be independent, right? Because this is the expression of what that component does, and how the CRD should be independent of this.
Okay. So, okay, cool.
Cool. So, Shreyas, we look
right.
forward to that PR with the documentation on the enhancement proposal that Fog and others and all of us could review and put comments there.
Yeah. Thanks
Yep.
for the sharing.
Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you.
You.
Okay, so if there's no other issues, let's just wrap this up.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Good to have you, Fog, and thank you all for attending.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.